Yael, I think she was destined to have a huge international career.
Hello, I'm Yael Stone from Orange is the New Black.
Very early on in her move to New York, she suddenly had a starring role in one of the most famous TV series in the world at the time.
Yes, I understand. I'll be a good girl. Okay.
But she's not a superficial person. She'll always follow through on her values, even if it looks to some people like it's detrimental.
I am about to get on this plane and I'm feeling pretty guilty about my carbon footprint.
In terms of her career, everything was really happening for her. And yeah, she made a decision just to walk away from that. It was really shocking.
I'd like to announce that I'm saying goodbye to a life in America. Let's put some skin in the game and say, yeah, I care.
I thought, wow, that's a very bold statement. Maybe did she need to say it so publicly? Because maybe she'll just want to go back on that.
I think a lot of people be like, this lady is cuckoo, and that's cool. But I think you have to make the choices that you can live with. Hey, will you help me pick up this bin?
Yep.
Okay. The one person who has seen me and understood me every single step of the way in this journey has been Jack. You're gonna love what it is.
Put it back in. Okay. And I can read that you have love. Oh my gosh. You got love for two. Did you have a two of hearts?
I did!
I'm amazing. That magic.
Oh dear. What are we going to talk about now?
I don't know, life.
Jack and I are really different people and we have different ways of walking in the world, but we are on this shared mission and we're both like holding each other's hands as we're walking on it.
I think of them both as just being incredibly dynamic, creative, big picture people, high achievers, which, you know, when you get two of those in a relationship, that's a big combo.
Founder and CEO of the Australian Indigenous Mentoring Experience, Jack Manning.
The Human Rights Young Medal was presented to Jack Manning Bancroft from Sydney.
My sister and Jack both throw down. They make big, bold statements and then they have to live up to them.
I want to give you a ticket to change the world.
Yeah, I think that's where Yael and I have formed such a strong love and union, is we came together around ideas.
You should not be the chair.
I've never felt like an idea was too big with Yael, and I never felt crazy.
I think you want
I think that's probably the magic that unites us as a couple.
Hello!
From the Corrimal Mall.
I think if you had told 5-year-old Yael that she would one day have 2 children with Jack Manning, as he was then, I think my little head would have exploded.
I didn't know any of you.
Yeah.
And then Yali was a year below.
Jack and Yali went to the same primary school, Balmain Primary. I do remember Jack. I just remember like a really hyperactive kid with a rat's tail and quite white kind of hair and just like, yeah, running. I just remember you running a lot.
Our main interaction was in like year 3, and I threw an egg across the playground at the girls.
It just smacked me right in the leg, and I was terribly allergic to eggs back then.
I found out she has an egg allergy
And then targeted
yeah,
really
targeted
and then accurate.
threw an egg at her.
And all the boys then just sort of pointed at me and dobbed me. They're like, "You idiot! She's having an anaphylactic fit. She's allergic to eggs." And so then the boys were like fully threw me out. I was a frustrated kid. You know, I wanted to be the captain of a team or have some leadership, and I just couldn't quite find my place.
School was a really, really joyful time for me. I started going to drama classes. You're trying to make me feel special.
Maybe.
Jack's dad, Ned, was my drama teacher. I did this show, The Farm, when I was 15.
We can't keep this a secret.
Why not?
Well, we could do that, Dad.
And Ned happened to be cast in The Farm as well.
We're up to our ears in debt, Jono.
Dad played Yael's boyfriend's dad, which is some weird, like, this will happen 20 years later thing.
Jack, he's always been a big energy kid. There are certainly people that are conformist and will toe the line that they've been told to do, and it definitely wasn't a pathway for Jack.
Mum being Aboriginal and being, like, on the front line of all of these big civil rights movements. I grew up with, like, a person who's tried to take that pain and harness it in the most positive way. So leadership felt like a way that I could channel the energy that was in me. I applied for a scholarship to go to Sydney Uni when I finished high school, and it was like a Rhodes Scholarship for an Indigenous person. And they then dropped me in there as like some like chemical like experiment to be like, okay, and let's see what happens in here.
Him going into this ultra-conservative, very prestigious residential college, I think we all wrestled with that as a family, with the high level of privilege.
I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to do something good to try and pay this thing back. I didn't want to feel like I overtook my Aboriginality for a ride.
What happens in the next couple of years? These next 2 years will be the biggest 2 years in your life.
In 2005, we created this organisation called AIME, which stood for the Australian Indigenous Mentoring Experience.
There's no shame at AIME, okay? So basically what we're trying to do, it's a safe place, but we can dive in.
He came up with the mentoring concept that these uni students that were at all these different universities could supply their time and energy to go into Aboriginal schools and help Aboriginal kids to actually learn.
We started AIME to try and look at a solution towards alleviating inequity, and so we looked at a two-pronged approach, how you can lift the educational outcomes of Indigenous high school kids, if not more critically, how could I affect more people to maybe shift their relationship with Indigenous people.
He starts out in his early 20s and he builds one of the largest, most successful not-for-profits in Australia.
He's one of Australia's youngest CEOs, and his program is mentoring nearly 3,000 students.
We reckon we can scale this up really quickly and have thousands and thousands of Indigenous kids getting through school and heading into university.
Yeah, it was everywhere, man. It was everywhere.
I want to do something really great for human beings and change the whole world. And I think doing that young, you can kind of run on the cloak of that bravado for a while. And I think I did that.
Oh.
So?
No, your hands are cold.
Is it tender?
No.
Yael was always getting great roles, getting lots of attention.
Open wide?
Mm-hmm. We auditioned actresses to play my dental assistant in Spirited, and it was her and Daylight. She really shone.
I suppose you can also talk to patients about leaving their husbands in the middle of the night now too.
You may go, you may go.
In 2010, Yael got the role opposite Jeffrey Rush in Diary of a Madman.
It's insufferable.
I was thrilled to work with someone of such an incredible level of skill. Then I toured Diary of a Madman to New York.
And then she's like, see, I'm moving to the States. As is the way with Yael, it just was an incredibly ballsy move that she then had to kind of live up to.
Right, DeMarco, this is Chapman.
4 months in, I got the job on Orange is the New Black.
I'll see you around. We'll talk about weddings, okay? Bye.
It was on some crazy thing called Netflix, which was like, oh, what is this? A web series?
I didn't mean to lead you on, honey. It's the hormones.
Oh, I see what's going on here.
Orange is the New Black is a show set in a minimum security women's prison.
Hi. Hi. My name's Lorna Morello.
It was amazing to watch, this Aussie girl come up with this incredible, truly rich accent and personality and focus.
I'm a crazy person.
there is something really wrong with me. And then it just went boom.
Uzo Aduba and Yael Stone, welcome to Joy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Speaking on behalf of the show, we are really honoured to be part of that category.
Orange is the new black!
As the show started to grow in its success, we wanted as a cast to really do our own give back.
And so, yeah, I got pretty deeply involved with criminal justice reform. I started working with a group called Liberation Prison Yoga as a teacher initially, and I'd go into Rikers prison. I was able to form friendship and connection with people who seemingly I share nothing with, but we all have so much to connect over. So that was a really big light bulb moment for me. It was feeding something in me that I did not realise how hungry I was for.
We've had over 10,000 kids go through the program across Australia, and the X factor over the last sort of 5-6 years has been that kids have been finishing school and transitioning into university, employment and further training at the same rate as every Australian kid, so effectively closing the educational gap.
AIME had been running for 10 years or so, and by all counts we were successful, and that was haunting me. Did that mean that our success meant that schools were getting worse? Do we have to prop up this school system and these arenas forever? Where does this end? How do you actually end like inequity? How do you really try and alleviate that? I had like a 5-month break. I was just like, what am I doing? You know, I'm not finished with this work. And thought really deeply about, you know, what could this look like if I took this thing globally?
He's Jack, so he's not going to just leave something. He's going to go, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, so I'm going to make it bigger.
Tonight we're going to announce that next year we're going to run a global campaign to give away 20 golden tickets to 20 university students from 20 different countries to see if they can take our model and rip a generation of powerless people out of inequality. Get ready for the next 10 years. You ain't seen nothing yet.
When I was in the States, I was not aware of what Jack was doing. We reconnected 2016.
I think I was 3 or 4 years into the Orange is the New Black journey. In my time back in Australia, I'd just done a play where I re-saw Jack in the foyer for the first time in a bazillion years.
And then bumped into Yali.
There were no vibes, just for the record.
And Yael said, let me know if I can ever help with anything with the AIME stuff. And anytime anyone says that, I'm like, oh, you're helping.
He said, look, I've got this event coming up, and he was launching AIME globally.
Yali brought a bunch of people along to the event, and that was cool and really important. I think the biggest effect that Yael had on me was that someone had my back.
We just had so much fun, and we went and got pizza. I smooched Jack.
I freaked out. So what are you doing? Yali tapped me on the head and said, you think too much, and smooched me again, and I was like, I think I love this lady.
He's not the first person I would have imagined my sister with. You know, I still saw him as a little kid. So it's like my sister's dating that little guy.
And the love we hold and the love we spurn will never grow old. It was just lots of feeling and lots of laughs. And I think, you know, like, we talk about big things and we care about big things, but we also have a really, like, silly time together, and I think probably the core of our relationship is, like, primary school humour.
I do remember her calling me to tell me that they were doing some science experiments, which turned out to mean trying to have a baby.
Beginning it.
They did get pregnant quickly, and they had Pemau. So Pemau's named after my great-grandmother and her great-great-grandmother.
We had our little sausage. She was so beautiful, but Orange is the New Black started shooting really quickly after that. It was super stressful. And, you know, our kid they're not so good at sleeping. So we were running onto pretty empty tanks.
This was at the same time as Yael was going through a lot of this stuff with Geoffrey Rush.
Actor Geoffrey Rush has been accused of inappropriate behaviour while performing in King Lear at the Sydney Theatre Company in 2015-16.
The Daily Telegraph has made false, pejorative and demeaning claims.
Actor Geoffrey Rush has won his defamation case against the Daily Telegraph newspaper. A federal court judge found articles accusing him of sexual harassment were sensationalist journalism of the worst kind.
There was a very public media story. It came clear that I wasn't going to be able to turn away from it.
Tonight, another actor is speaking for the first time about her experience working with Geoffrey Rush in a different production years earlier.
Actor Yael Stone is calling for changes to the entertainment industry's culture after accusing Geoffrey Rush of making her uncomfortable when they worked together in 2010. He has strongly denied the accusations.
There was a lot at stake, actually, beyond my career. There were some really important friendships that would be destroyed and that have been destroyed. Now, I think that's a really important step to stand up and say no. But I think we would do well to have sympathy for what that huge gear shift feels like on the other side.
Yael cares really deeply about trying to do the right thing. I couldn't have been prouder of her.
In a statement, Geoffrey Rush said, "The allegations of inappropriate behaviour made by Yael Stone are incorrect. I sincerely and deeply regret if I have caused her any distress."
I just felt like it was an important thing to be present for, and that, you know, if one day my daughter, or what turned out to be our daughters, asked me why I did what I did, that I would be able to say I didn't want to leave somebody standing alone.
Orange is the New Black ran for 7 seasons. Filming that final season in 2019 of Orange, it was bittersweet.
I could not be prouder than to have been lucky enough to be part of that show. But at the time, Jack was just so on the edge in terms of reserves. AIME had gone from work that focused on Indigenous kids in Australia to opening up this mentoring work to the whole world.
I was in America going, how do you crack this place open? And we were just like laughed out of rooms. Like, I was going to these meetings and no one had any idea what an Indigenous person was in Australia.
Been around the way a bit, you know, a little bit older than you fellas.
I was like, well, okay, why don't we try and just go for one big stunt?
U.S. college students, we've got your ticket to change the world. For 15 years, we've been working with a team in Australia perfecting a mentoring model to change the planet.
People were going to win a golden ticket to fly on a chartered plane to Australia to be part of this mentoring festival. And it was a huge challenge. He just puts himself on the line every time, which is beautiful and hard to watch too.
We have our friends coming from South Africa, from Nigeria, from Rwanda, from Zimbabwe, from Uganda. So when we land, and this is the last thing I'll say before we get on the plane, let's try and be the coals on the fire. Let's try and have this experience be something that stays with us for the next 50, 60, 70 years, for our whole life. So off you go.
We then landed in Australia for this festival of mentoring. The crew from the continent of Africa that we were working with were there. The whole schedule for the 3 or 4 days was in my head. I was sort of still drafting it on the plane.
Doing all the logistics of that was exhausting, obviously, and then no rest. He collapsed at the event and was taken to hospital. It's like, oh my God, is my son going to actually die here.
I'm over in the States and I got a call from Bronwyn and she just said, Jack's collapsed and you have to come.
The festival basically descended into like a race conversation over who had more right to talk on behalf of inequity and the pain and injustice and different people's relationship to blackness and it felt like the whole thing kind of imploded a little bit.
We were having a hard time trying to understand one another and trying to connect.
The team did the absolute best they could.
Let's figure out a way that we can channel this energy.
But when we attack each other and tear each other down and no one has a solution, that kills me. That just makes me just want to go, well, why do anything, you know? And I couldn't see any of the positive stuff. Like I just couldn't, I just got dark.
People come and people go.
It was like 3 or 4 months that I just like tapped out, like fully just let this like depressive wave kind of just stop me. And I just didn't want to get out of it for a little bit.
Kakajaka?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm stuck.
It was sort of the most hopeless and downbeat I'd ever seen him. We took time, we took a lot of time. And we were getting stronger together in a different place, in this beautiful place here on Dharawal country, pretty much the opposite of New York City in every way. And eventually he decided on hope. And in a way it was much more powerful because he chose it.
We've listened really deeply as a team to our Indigenous systems and our knowledge holders, and you know, at its essence, it's just about us being in relation with nature and being healthier and kinder to each other. And so we set out a very bold pursuit to try and work out how we could build an interconnected network all around the world of different people, across disciplines, across areas, across institutions, across borders, across the margins, between species, and from there, then try and work out how we reorient that question of how we solve planetary inequity. Hey Siaka, this is the first time I've ever logged into this thing.
How does it feel?
Like, oh yeah, it works.
That's where he starts to build this vision, this dream of a massive platform called Imagination.
This is our club of unlikely connections where we gather in unlikely connections of 5. And
this is not just like the old days in the 90s and early 2000s of setting up underprivileged kids from the margins with people of power and influence. It's 5 people who would never ever speak to each other, and that there are 1 or 2 people in there who are from the margins, but they're not there to get wisdom from the other powerful, knowledgeable people. They're there to offer their wisdom from the margins, and that this carries a lot of the solutions to the big meta crises of the world.
Someone from Uganda and someone from Germany and someone from America and a puppet. We have a troupe of puppets that move around with us. The moment you're engaging with puppets, you're really building your imagination muscle, and we want to keep that generating so we can help solve some of these intractable challenges. So it feels like we're home again and ready for the next iteration of the story.
We'd been in Australia for about 6 months and my green card arrived. And I'd applied years before, and it meant that I could work on other jobs in the States unrestricted. And so it meant a whole new future for me as an actor. It was really exciting.
It's a passport to so much opportunity. She could have done anything at that point, for sure.
And then the fires happened, and for me that was a really big watershed moment where I couldn't follow the plan. I was experiencing a ton of anxiety and really struggling to sleep. Eczema head to toe.
This incredible climate disaster that we're experiencing here in Australia with these unprecedented bushfires ravaging our country.
I was there publicly criticising federal decision-making around this stuff, But then I looked at myself and was like, well, where's your accountability in all this? I'd like to announce that I'm giving up my green card. It's unethical for us to set up a life in 2 countries knowing what we know. The carbon emissions alone from that flying, it's unethical. It's not right.
It's my way of embodying the change that I would like to see globally, that I would like to see leaders take.
I felt like I was being a petulant child and, you know, making a phone call to kind of big fancy agents being like, I think I want to work on climate change action in Australia. It's a pretty unconventional phone call to make.
Hi.
It took me a while to find my feet in terms of what I was going to do. I also knew the one thing we don't have is time, so like hurry up and do something.
Okay, pretty good. It may fall down at some stage.
But I think that could be funny. I really respect activists and people who are on the front line, but it didn't feel right for me. I was like, no, I think I want to actually bring groups together, bring these unlikely groups together. I was really heavily influenced by Jack.
Yeah, get going.
Yeah? Okay. The mission for High Neighbour is to support a really inclusive and local energy transformation.
We are a coal and steel area, and I was seeing a lot of people demonising coal workers and people who work in high fossil fuel industries, and it just didn't make any sense to me. These people have the skills and the know-how to make this transition happen. High Neighbour is a local grassroots organisation, and we give out scholarships to local workers who want to upskill to work in clean energy.
That cable into the lift, yeah? First thing when I got ready this morning was throw some sun cream on my face to come out and stand in the sun rather than being in the mine where we're obviously in the dark all day.
We have a really unique funding model where we support local businesses to put commercial scale solar on their rooftops, and that's how we earn our money for our scholarships, either through commission or through interest by giving them a loan. There's definitely moments where I'm like, hey, Yael, what are you doing? I love acting. I love the creative work, and you know, I've made some decisions that have challenged that. We'll see if the little secateurs are enough.
Hello, outside. Yeah, birds and boats.
So, of course, there's questions, but I feel really good about where we are and that we're doing it together. Jack, would you like to do Hon Hoki Toto?
I've never felt that there was something we couldn't dance into or try and understand, and we're just trying to be cool with how insignificant we are and then contribute all the same.
I don't think we'll bite it. It's not ready yet. We got to cook it. Oh, you're in the hole. You're in the numbat hole.
Well, this is really quite an experience for me. I've had my nappy changed before. It's a big move. You ever done this before? Not really, no. Oh, it's a good one for us, Marley. It's really developing our skill set. Do you rest much when you're back here? When you lie like this, do you rest? When you get your nappy changed? Do you like this? Why do you fight it so much? It's quite relaxing, actually. I could get used to this.